What's going on, fam? Welcome back to episode number 22 of The Boot Report. My name is Noah Cavanaugh, and in today we are going to go over an unbelievable boot comparison for you guys. Two absolutely sensational football boots. We're going to go over a couple more 1 month review scores and of course talk about some personal branding things and why you should be building your own personal brand as a coach or a footballer. Let's hop into section 1, weekly mindset, and we are going to go over the importance of personal branding for athletes. Now, this is something that you will hear a lot more on this channel as I get into more of the athlete branding side of things. And I think it is something that has served me incredibly well as a lot of other players out on the market. Guys like Matt Sheldon, guys like Michael Cunningham, myself, and players you're starting to see participate in TST and other big tournaments are now also getting signed by pro clubs because they have big audiences and people really know what they're getting with those types of players because they have an online brand. Now, online branding and your personal brand is simply what people say about you when you're not in the room. So you can consider personal branding to be things like, well, if you're applying to college for soccer, you best believe that that coach is going to go and check out your socials. So that's Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, or X, I guess now, LinkedIn, YouTube, etc., to get a picture of what you're like as a person. Because obviously, really early on, that coach isn't allowed to speak to you. And same with the pro game. You know, most pro players and pro coaches aren't going to be able to really interact all that much until the point where there's some serious negotiations going on. A lot of it has to do with the relationship of the highlight video, but more and more coaches are discovering that, a good locker room and also building an organization is very, very important. And so having a personal brand and having players with personal brands actually makes a stronger team. I know what I'm getting as a coach when I get somebody with a personal brand or I sign somebody with a personal brand, because their reputation is all over the internet. And so I can filter out personality types that I'm not looking for very, very quickly as a coach. And so that's one of the reasons why I strongly encourage you to build or start building a personal brand as young as possible. I would say 14, 15 years old, particularly if you're trying to go pro by the time you're 17, 18, or if you are trying to get into the collegiate soccer system now in America. Now, particularly for America, on a slight aside, there's something called NIL, which is name, image, and likeness. Now, the NIL rules now make it possible for schools to fund or sponsor you as a player outside of the normal scholarship areas. So let's say that the University of Washington in Seattle really wanted me to play for them, and they're an Adidas sponsored team, I believe. They were Nike for a long time. I think that now that they're Adidas. And if Adidas wanted to sponsor, if Adidas was sponsoring, UW might go to Adidas and say, hey, give this kid an Adidas contract in order for us to get him to play for us. Better for Adidas, better for UW. And those brands can now start paying through the university sort of these young players. You see this in American football all the time. The players that have the bigger personal brands are getting monster contracts. Like we're talking 18-year-olds getting $1 million deals to be a quarterback at Alabama or something like that, right? I'm not an American football fan, so those of you who do watch American football, you're going to know a lot more about this than me. But it's very, very important. With social media being such a big player now, I think you owe it to yourself to build a personal brand and be online. A couple amazing things that can happen from a personal brand. Personal brand is obviously a massive leveraging tool for you as you go through your footballing career. You become more valuable to the team as a player, or for a coach, you become more valuable to an organization. You build club and brand credibility as an owner or a GM or a club executives. I've now talked to a couple different USL club executives and CEOs who I've encouraged to do personal branding because it actually builds the brand story of what the club is like and why the club was created and how it's run. And for a university team, this would particularly be interesting because university teams in America are so based on recruiting. And so when you have a player who thinks about a certain program, that program has a particular brand identity to it, right? Certain coaches and certain programs have the reputation, really. That's the simplest word you can use, but it's a brand reputation about the program that will cause more or less people to apply to that school or want to come to that school. Imagine if a head college coach at a smaller Division I school had an amazing personal brand. I would reckon they'd probably get more applicants than a Stanford or a Notre Dame, even though those Notre Dame and those Stanford teams are some of the best in the country. You want to know why? Because people want to play for a brand that they love and they recognize and that they are inspired by or they buy into. And so building a brand, imagine that now for the player's perspective. You have a player and you as a player build your own personal brand, and all of a sudden you have universities wanting to invest in you because you are the asset and they want to bring you in, or a professional team wants to bring you in. This happened in my own career when I had hit over 100,000 followers on all my platforms, right? And this was several years ago. And I had teams coming out of the woodwork being like, we want to sign you because we know that not only you're a good player, like you have to be up to the level, of course, but that plus a personal brand gives you so much more leverage as a player and allows you to get a lot more money from contracts. So that's something to think about as well. One of the massive frameworks that I'm going to be going over in the next years with this personal branding stuff is the core framework that I developed, which is clarify, organize, reach, and elevate. So clarify in the core branding framework is your personality, your purpose, and your vision. That's really discovering who you are, what your vision is for yourself long term, what your life purpose is, both in and out of football. But football is what you do, not who you are. This section clarifies really about who you are. Then we move on to organize, which is about positioning your product, your strategy. So you could be the product, you could develop products. This is for those of you who are a little bit entrepreneurial minded and who want to make a little bit of money on the side, particularly for those of you who are playing like I did, lower division pro, and you want a little bit more way to supplement your income, and you want to get a strategy for how you're actually going to build out this brand. Then you go reach. So this is executing with volume and consistency on the media side, making sure you're reaching out to clients and people and networking and doing all that stuff, building your brand as you also train for your footballing career. And then elevate, which is partnerships and becoming a key person of influence. So this is something where you really start to build key partnerships. For me, it was building partnerships with the development teams, like the product development teams of the big brands, and getting in the room with them to do consulting so that I am making an impact on the industry as opposed to working in the industry, if that makes sense. So I'm working on it as opposed to in it, which is the same way you want to treat your brand. So anyway, hope that was a little pitch on why you should start building your personal brand. Stay tuned for more information that will be totally free to you here on YouTube and on my website, as well as a really cool community that we're going to be starting. That's going to be a full layout of how to build your personal brand based on this core framework that I've used to build my following, now over 150,000 people who are now watching this, and also who have helped me get to the next level in my career now, but also in my footballing, and allowed me to sustain for a lot longer than I probably would have if I didn't have a personal brand. All right, section 2, boot talk. Now we are going to rope something really quickly in before we jump into the boot comparison, and that is the new boots in the shop. Now I just wanted to mention this really, really fast because it's going to come up into the market report section, but I'm just going to do it now really fast so that we can get to the comparison, because one of the comparison boots is actually one of the new boots in the shop, but I've had some time with it now, so you get what I'm saying. The first one is this crazy Under Armour thing. I don't even know what this magnetic. I mean, it's a Magnetico 5. Maybe I've mentioned this. I can't remember if I have in a previous episode, but these ones came in pretty recently, and I'll talk about them a little bit in the performance breakdown. But this is a new one in the shop. The other new one we got was a custom ID customized boot. So this is a boot from a Chinese manufacturer who has been around since 2016. They use parts from football boots that have already existed, which is really interesting. So that's number 2. And then we also have, like I mentioned, that launched last week, the absolutely stunning and sensational Morelia Ultralight. And this is a pair of football boots that I am so excited about. So we are going to compare the Morelia Ultralight, which I've now had a little bit of on-feet time in. I still have to do the unboxing, which is kind of the weird thing. This is a insight into the industry a little bit, if you are interested, before we get into this comparison. So sometimes, because of timing or because I get these from Ultra, or a boot from Ultra, I will do a review with Ultra before I actually get the boots into my own studio and shoot my own content. And so there are times when I have to make it look really pretty and clean it and take the laces out and make it look like it's brand new. But I've already had the boots on feet. So that's one thing that unfortunately tends to happen sometimes. So I wanted to compare one of my Grail football boots with the new version of that boot. Now, this is probably super, super busted out because of the exposure. So I'm going to try and fix. Let's see if I can get the, there we go. So now you can see it a little bit more. Nail the exposure a little bit more on this video. Okay, so it'll be a little bit darker, but that's all right. You guys can live with it. So this is the Morelia Ultralight, which released in 2021. And this is or 22 maybe. Absolutely beautiful pair. This was on my Grail list. And then I got a DM from Cleats Corner _1, and he was able to send these out to me, which is absolutely sensational. So very, very cool football boot. And then this, of course, is the Morelia Ultralight. A little bit of a new construction. It's a little bit more kind of Morelia 2 Ultralight as opposed to Morelia Ultralight in this one, which is a totally different model, stitching pattern, lacing system compared to the standard Morelia 2, which we'll talk about. So we're going to go over sole plate first. And these sole plates are genetically identical, as you can see. So they're basically the same sole plates. The only difference is the Ultralight 2. I'm going to call it the Ultralight 2 for the sake of this video. But the Ultralight 2 doesn't have the rivets in it, and it is slightly lighter and also slightly snappier. So that is going to go to the Ultralight. Now, some of you may be like, yeah, but the durability and blah, blah, blah. It's Mizuno made in Japan, dude. Do not worry about it one bit. I have had zero issues on either the new red regular edition, which is a update without the rivets. And I've only worn this one time, but I haven't had any issues with this one either. Now, the heel area, upper first. So the upper is also a situation where I think this is going to come down to personal preference. I actually find that the first generation Ultralight fits a little bit better. I think it's because of this stitching pattern that reminds me a lot of the Wave Cup Legend. Yes, that's right. One of my favorite boots. I would say probably my second favorite boot of all time. And this upper just feels incredible. It is so comfortable. Not to say that this isn't, because of course this is the same beautiful leather that we get from the first generation Ultralight, but I just think the first generation Ultralight with such a wide and deep lacing system is pretty sensational. It's pretty unique, particularly with these cross-stitching diamond pattern on the lateral and medial sides of that kind of the knuckles of the forefoot, if you will. So very, very cool. So that goes to the Ultralight. The heel area is also an interesting one. This is going to be up, I think, to personal preference. Obviously, the new Ultralight has this really unique, super low profile design, which, to be honest with you, this is a little sneak peek into the playtest of the video that I'm going to be doing. This actually feels totally fine. I didn't have any issues with it. Zero kind of bending or whatever, at least in the first, with my own videos playtest, I might have issues. We'll see, because I train a little bit harder in my own videos than I do with Ultra stuff, just because Ultras is more of a B-roll situation. Bottom line is that this is still very, very comfortable, despite it looking a little bit awkward. However, I'm going to give it to the Morelia Ultralight 1, because I do think this has a little bit more of that just traditional, beautiful suede, soft lining to it. And I just think this is absolutely amazing. So that goes to the heel. Now, in terms of comfort, this is where this gets really interesting. Out of the box, I think both are sensationally comfortable. I actually think that the new Ultralight is a little bit more comfortable, even though the upper of the Ultralight 1 I like better, just from an aesthetic perspective, and also from the leather stitching perspective. I like the stitching pattern better on this one. I actually think the comfort of this new one is pretty hard to beat, particularly because it's based on the Morelia 2 as opposed to sort of its own standalone model, influenced by a lot of different Mizuno boots of the past. But I do think the comfort of this one is absolutely ridiculous. It is so good. And it does sort of have this Morelia 2 essence to it. It's like a revisited Morelia 2. It's actually called the Rebuild Pack, but You get what I'm saying. So that goes to the Ultralight 2. And then in terms of performance, I'm also going to give it to the Ultralight 2. The majority of that actually comes down to the lacing system, because if we put the boots toe to toe all the way down on the desk and then we lift them up, you can see that the lacing system here, well, it's hard to see now. The lacing system on the Ultralight 2, maybe it's because the tongue exists, but that opening is very, very long. And if I hold my fingers like this and we put the laces up, it's almost an extra X amount of, I don't even know how much that is, probably half an inch, 3/4 of an inch, extra space where there isn't a lace loop. The lace loop is pushed further forward on the gold model. And for that reason, I'm going to give the performance to this one. And that's really all it comes down to. Sole plate's basically the same, although this does have a little bit more responsiveness. The heel areas lock you in regardless of which one you're wearing, so that's not a big deal. The leather's going to be excellent on both models. The one other thing I would say that this one actually does a little bit better is because the Running Bird logo is a little more robust on this one, as opposed to this is sort of just a piece of flimsy, it's not plastic, it's like a metallic white fabric material that doesn't stretch, so it moves and bends and stuff, whereas this one actually doesn't as much. And so this is much more robust feeling. It feels more like a piece of plastic almost, which isn't a bad thing. It's just, and it's textured as well, so it's got this really nice kind of wrap around your foot, which feels really good for a boot that's a little bit more classic, which is kind of nice. So that's for performance. Now design, that's a no-brainer for me. Although I love the whiteout boots, it does look a little bit awkward with the heel area, at least like in person. Whereas this with the fold over tongue, the gold with the black and the white accents, that is tough to beat. That's a GOAT level look right there, even if this opening is a lot bigger than I probably would have loved. Now in terms of lace area, I've mentioned this before, the standard lacing area on the Ultralight 2 is going to win for me. I just think this one, although I love how open and long it goes almost to basically to the base of my toe fingers, if you will, the toes. The lacing system here just doesn't go high enough. I wish it went another, maybe one or even two more further towards your ankle and towards your Achilles tendon in the heel area, just because it just doesn't give as much lockdown as I would like, despite these being GOAT tier. I mean, these are absolutely incredible. And then X Factor, I think you have to give it to this one because the Ultralight is just, this was based on the original model. And this one also is just a little bit more special in terms of the design changes and the actual changes they've made to the boot, as opposed to this one, which is very clearly a reworked Morelia 2, whereas this one, because of the stitching pattern and the change in the laces and the half fold over tongue instead of the longer one and all that, is a little bit more different. So X Factor goes to the Ultralight. Funny enough, that gives us a 4-4 tie. Ultralight 2 has sole plate win, comfort win, performance win, and lace area win. So more of which you would expect from a modern one, right? Better sole plate, better comfort, better performance, better lace area. Pretty good. Upper heel area, design, and X Factor, which are more like classic and sort of maybe a little bit more subjective, if you will, go to this one. So a 4-way tie. That was absolutely not on purpose, but these are both amazing, amazing, amazing football boots. Quality and class from Mizuno, and definitely boots that I would highly recommend getting your hands on if you can. So we'll get back to the Ultralight in just a little bit as well. So that is the weekly boot comparison. And then as far as performance breakdowns, I wanted to give you guys my first impressions as I'm filming the reviews for the last several boots that I have in the office, if you will. And we're actually going to turn this back on up a little bit. There we go. Perfect. And I wanted to give you performance breakdowns of a couple different boots that I had the chance to train in the other day. I wasn't actually filming. I was taking photos, not filming for the boot review yet. I'm filming these reviews probably next week, but I did play in them a little bit before for the photos. So the first one I want to go over is the Skechers SKX 2. Now, if any of you watching this right now have worn the Nike Magista Obra 1 in high top, not the Opus, the Obra 1, this is the closest thing that I think I've ever worn to a low top Obra 1. So feels like the knit. Even this diamond stitching pattern is very, very similar to the Obra 1. The feel of this is very similar to Obra 1. It's got the knit tongue. It's like an updated, maybe a little bit more snug feeling because the shape is a little more modern. This feels like an Obra 1 in a lot of ways, and I absolutely love it. I think this is one of, if not the best boots of the year so far. It's really that good, and Skechers absolutely knocked it out of the park. And to be fair, when I first saw this boot, I was like, oh yeah, these are going to be quality. Like I saw some early photos of them in this color and stuff, and in a couple other colors, and I was like, this, having it in hand and being like, dude, this blew me away when I put it on feet for the photos. And I'm really excited to share my thoughts in the playtest review coming up. So stay tuned for that. Skechers SKX 2, do not sleep on this boot. It is fantastic. Really fantastic. The next one is the Magnetico 5 in this crazy digi-camo style colorway. Now, we've gone a little bit backwards now in terms of where the design was from the 3 to the 4 to the 5. We've kind of gone 3 to 4 to then the 5 is now sort of a 3.5. It's like this. It's more similar to the 3 in terms of the upper, but it's a little bit stiffer. It has a little bit more structure to it. You put your foot in and you're like, whoa, I am not going to be... The upper, this oxetic material molds really well to the foot, but the coating on the top doesn't allow for a ton of stretch. So it's got this really unique sensation of molding pretty well to kind of any foot shape, but then really holding you super, super tight in. So that's kind of an interesting sensation as well. The one thing that I don't appreciate is that this knit, this IntelliKnit, they went way too stiff with this IntelliKnit. I think this, because they have such robust laces here, which I really hope these aren't on the normal colorways because these laces suck. They're really flat and they're really fabricy and gross, and I just am not a fan. They put digi-camo pieces of like these. I literally could probably tear one off, but this IntelliKnit needs to be slightly less robust because getting my foot in here was an absolute nightmare. So that's something that, but once your foot is in, it's very snug. It's very, very custom fit. That's the feeling, is very custom fit, which is a good thing. The sole plate is meh. I wish they would have changed it a little bit, but it's nice that it's this one and they didn't go with the shadow. So overall, it's definitely a better product than 3. It's a better product than 4. So in that sense, it is an upgrade, but it is definitely still not up to par with what's the rest of the boots on the market, unfortunately. F50 Plus. This boot is the best F50 they make. This is the best F50 they make. The only thing I absolutely hate about this boot, and which is why I'm going to will I go with this color? Maybe. I'll probably put a pair of Volt laces on here that are actual laces, because whatever the hell these shoestring, gross ass, tiny laces are, is just not. It's like, come on, man. What did you save? 0.02 ounces? Like 3 grams? Get over yourself. Come on. I know you're trying to make it a lightweight boot, but yeah. This reminds me a lot of how I loved the Speed Portal Plus, the really lightweight one, more than the regular Speed Portal series. This is the same for me. So this is it's very fun to wear. I wish they had an extra lace hole. I will probably be bringing my lace puncher out to the field for the playtest so that I can punch an extra lace hole and get like the most locked in sensation. And then per usual, this sole plate with the Light Strike Pro is very unique to play in. It's super fun to run in just in a straight line, but cutting and stuff, it's a little awkward because it like pushes, for some players like myself, my movement patterns and ergonomics I'm not on my toes all the time, 100% of the time. So it just feels a little bit awkward, but overall, this is the best F50 they make, other than the Messy. But I'm sort of siloing the Messy in a different category, but out of all the regular F50 models with the Sprint Web texture and this and the Fiber Touch upper, this is definitely the best one they make, in my opinion. I just think it's the most unique and it's the most cool, and it's also for me the most comfortable. So that's pretty sick. And then X-Fly 6, my oh my, I was a little skeptical about this boot with the caveat that they already made X-Fly 5 Special Edition, which was just the synthetic leather. It was like the precursor to what this silky wrap is. I don't want to give away too much, but this is why the X-Fly series, X-Fly 5, X-Fly 4, X-Fly 6 now is top 10 boots of all time for me. They are sensational. And when you put them on feet, this is what I would love. This is what I imagine in my perfect world Tiempo 11 feels like. It's so good. It is so, so, so good. And for me, the shape and the general feel and the fit, this is a better boot than the X-Fly Pro 3 for me. I know, I said it, but it just fits me better. And it's just a more simple product in my opinion, and it just executes. So there you go, performance breakdowns. All right, 1 month reviews. Let's go over 4 more boots that I wanted to cover, and I don't think I'll have any more after this, but I wanted to go over the 4 more boots that I've had more than one training session in. So let's first cover one of the grails, the Wave Cup. This is one of the most beautiful football boots of all time. I still need to clean the bottom because it's got some mud on it still, but it is so, so good. I would imagine, in fact, I'm pretty sure, there's mud all over the table now, love that this will probably be outside of the Hypervenom 3, well, in terms of 1 month review ratings, which I actually try my best to take away my feelings towards a boot and just go like as objective as possible with the ratings, this is probably the highest rated boot that's ever been on the channel. Sole plate gets a 9. This is, and by the way, for those of you who didn't see last week's episode or any of my 1 month reviews, the 9 is the highest rating I give. There's no such thing as a perfect score. So because football boots and products can never be perfect, they can be perfect, quote unquote, for you. But generally speaking, objectively, there's never going to be a perfect product. So 9 is the best you can do. This is a 9 out of 10. The stud pattern and the way that it operates on your foot, the wave tech in the back is fantastic. It is the perfect Mizuno sole plate. I actually really wish that they put this sole plate on the Morelia 2. I think the Morelia 2 would sell out if they put the Wave Cup sole plate on the Morelia 2. It's so good, and it elevates a pseudo classic, or like a little bit more classic football boot quite a bit more than you would think. Very snappy, very bouncy. It's really, really fun to play in. The upper goes without saying. The stitch pattern is perfect. It's a full K leather upper, 9 out of 10. The heel area, I'm going to give an 8. And the reason I'm giving an 8 is because it's not DNA heel, which is the same, but this one has the new suede. And I wish they would have gone with the suede. That's my only reason it's not a 9, is because this doesn't have that suede. It's still perfect for me. I still don't get any slippage, blah, blah, blah. But objectively speaking, the suede material would make this better, and they have the capability to do it, even though they didn't. So that's an 8 for me, unfortunately. And then I'm just going to say it. The rest are 9s. Comfort, 9 out of 10. No question. This will fit pretty much everybody as well. Performance is a 9. Despite the more classic look, these perform substantially better than a regular Morelia 2 because of the sole plate and because of the way that the laces and the stitching pattern exist on this boot and are designed. It is absolutely wonderful. That's a 9 as well. Objectively, it's one of the best performing boots on the market. Durability, it's a made in Japan Mizuno model. I've worn these on firm ground surfaces, as you can see from the dirt on the bottom. AG, obviously, with the photos and the playtest, and these are just absolutely fantastic. And then X Factor, I think it's a 9 as well. I think this is really unique for the Mizuno brand, but I also think it's really unique in this marketplace. And the fact that this exists still from what is it now? 23 years ago, 24 years ago, from 2002. Pretty amazing. Pretty amazing. So that gives us an overall score of 8.86. That is ridiculous. It's the only thing that knocked it down was the heel area. And although I do think this is excellent, it's not the best Mizuno can do. Now, moving on to the cousin, the DNA 2. This is a boot that, as you know from the hole punch video, I've actually punched holes in. I have play tested now a couple times because I wanted to test the hole punching, see if it actually worked really well. It did, by the way. And I haven't had any issues with the material ripping now that there is a extra hole where technically it wasn't manufactured there. These are God tier, and will also be probably one of the highest rated boots of this entire section. We're just going to go rip through these. Sole plate is a 9 out of 10. There's not really much else Mizuno I think could do here. It's classic. It's been around for a really long time with minor upgrades. It's got a ton of snap to it, great rigidity, but also it's got a little bit of flexity. It's got a little bit of flexity. That if I kept doing boot review content, that would be my new word. It's got some flexity. It's got a little bit of flex going torsional, so it's got a little bit of sideways flex, which means it's going to give you great amount of push off and spring, but enough ergonomic flexibility to be really, really comfortable underfoot. And it's conical studs, so it's going to work well with everything. Upper, easy question, 9 out of 10. No questions here at all. Heel area, this is your 9 out of 10 heel area. This is the best Mizuno heel area out of everything. Right? Even other than the alpha, but the alpha is 9 out of 10 for on the aggressive scale as opposed to the comfort scale, but both are 9 out of 10s. They're both insane and amazing and comfy and just, oh, they're so good. Best on the market other than Asics. Comfort, easily 9 out of 10 as well. Performance gets an 8 out of 10. Not as good because of the stitching pattern and because of the way that the upper is constructed. It's just not quite as responsive as something like a Wave Cup. So that's an 8 out of 10. Durability is a 9 out of 10. It's a made in Japan Mizuno product. Zero issues with any of these. And the other reason why I'm saying this is because I've also tested a lot the DNA1, the DNA1 from a couple years ago, and I've had that boot for a while, and those are in great shape still, and I wear them on a relatively frequent basis. X Factor gets an 8 out of 10. And the reason it gets an 8 is because the 9 went to the Wave Cup, and the Wave Cup is a totally unique product, whereas the DNA is simply two pieces of the puzzle put together that they've already produced. And so although it is really cool, and it is really awesome, and it is really beautiful, and it's got all the features of a boot that should be on everybody's list to try, it just doesn't have the X factor that the Wave Cup does. So I can't give it a 9 out of 10. So 8 out of 10, which gives an overall score of 8.71 out of 10. Excellent. Tekela V5. This is a boot that also is in, I think it's going to be one of the best boots of the year as well. It's incredibly comfortable. Some things I don't like about it, so the score isn't as high as you might think, despite my choice to wear these quite a bit, because I do really think this upper is absolutely fantastic. They need to do a better job with the naming. Dynamic touch tech doesn't really ring off the tongue, if you will. Doesn't really fly off the tongue. Yeah, maybe that's the saying. You tell me in the comments. Tekela V5, sole plate. Unfortunately, I'm going to give this a 7 out of 10. I think it's really good. I think they've updated it. It's very snappy now. It's got good amount of responsiveness and reinforcement through the midfoot. I'm just not, although I think it's cool and it does work to some extent, I just would rather there not be these rim studs. I just think they do too much, and I don't know. I just think this was in need of a little bit more of an update than what we got. So it's a 7 out of 10. The upper is an 8 out of 10. This is an excellent upper. As far as synthetic leather feels go, this is one of the best, if not the best on the market. It's actually one of the best. It's not the best. Silky wrap is the best. This is probably number 2 by a pretty, and then everything else is a long way away from this. So this is a 8 out of 10 upper. Heel area, although improved from the previous generation, which is great, this is going to get a 7 out of 10. It's not perfect. It fits me really well, but I know that a lot of people have issues with the Tekela heels as well as the Furon heels. That's one thing that New Balance could probably do a little bit better, but it is very comfortable now. It's got the suede, perforated suede, and it's a little bit more padded than the previous gen, and it just has a little bit of a better shape, wraps your heel area a little bit better, which is great. Comfort, 9 out of 10, 0 break-in time, actually 0. This is absolutely fantastic. On a side note, really quick, go up half a size. So I go up a half size for all of my New Balance boots. So I wear a 9 usually, and then a 9.5. If you're interested in my full size guide, you can get it for free down in the link below. Performance, 8 out of 10. This is a very, very good performing football boot. As I mentioned before, the rim studs are not my favorite, but it does add to the performance. You get insane lateral cutting with this style of rim stud that just gives you this bite as you turn that makes it pretty legit when you're doing any sort of turning with the ball, turning to mark a player or to fake a play, whatever. Any sort of lateral movement, you're going to be very pleased with this sole plate and just the general performance. Durability is a 7. I think there are some areas that are going to wear a little bit quicker. Build quality isn't as top notch as some other brands, although it is still pretty good. And I have had a little bit of splitting on, is it this one? Maybe it's the right shoe, which is in the car. I had a little bit of splitting in this area, but it's like so small. The reason I'm giving it a 7 is because the 442 that I've worn a couple times, that one had a little bit of durability issues. Not to the point where I couldn't wear them, but it was just like a tiny bit of splitting. And I'm just like, oh, that's annoying. I can always just super glue it back together. But that has a very, very similar construction to this and a very similar upper to this. So that's sort of the thing in my mind was like, okay, remember the 442 had some issues. I've heard some players also have some 442 issues. So that's, 7 out of 10 for durability. And then X Factor, unfortunately, I'm going to give it a 5 out of 10. I just don't think that even though the fundamental DNA of this boot has stayed the same, the change to the upper just doesn't give this boot a special enough vibe in my head to give it's like, whoa, that's got something crazy special. Yes, this upper is really amazing. It's really amazing. It's just I think this would have a much better X factor if they had switched the sole plate around a little bit, maybe even kept the similar design or the same design as this, but shifted the sole plate around and then not used the same material for the 442 that launched 6 months prior to this. So 5 out of 10. That puts us at a 7.29 out of 10. Still a very, very solid score for New Balance. And then the final one is the Phantom 6. This happens to be the AG model, but I will use this as a sort of a proxy for the high cut and the low cut, really. And I'll show you some of the differences. But the low cut is really the one that you want to wear, I think, because it just fits so good. This is such a good boot. Phantom 6 sole plate. I'm going to speak for the FG model. In my opinion, the FG model gets a 7 out of 10, much improved from the previous generation, but it's still not perfect. I think they need to lose that Cyclone, and that Cyclone 360 4-foot just needs to die. And the rest of the sole plate actually is excellent. It's actually really good. It probably would have been one of the best Nike sole plates they've done in a really long time if they were to have taken those out and put either conical studs or even some chevron studs, kind of like the Vapor. That would have been totally fine with me, and they didn't. And they kept on with this damn Cyclone thing it just doesn't work that well. So 7 out of 10. The upper for me is a 9 out of 10. The shape changes that they've made, which we'll get into comfort in a second, but the slight shape changes, they've gone back to what we loved with the GX1. This is a 9 out of 10 upper. This upper is excellent. It has lockdown. It's got insane amounts of grip. It feels excellent on the ball. This is one of the best uppers on the market. And I think this is a better boot than the Vapor, hands down, which has a similar upper. Heel area, 7 out of 10. It's like slightly above average, but it's not amazing. It's unfortunately not as improved as what I would have liked. And in fact, I would say it almost has gone downhill a little bit from the previous generation because it's a little bit wider and there's a little bit more space here than I would have liked. The comfort is a 9 out of 10 for me. This is another one of those boots I can fit in straight away. It is snug, but that's what grip knit is supposed to be. But it is excellent. Performance, also a 9 out of 10. This is a boot that I would pick up for a game if I had to pick any boot out of my collection let's say modern boot, because old boots are great, but sometimes they have issues with durability. If I'm going to pick one boot to go play a game in, it's going to be Phantom 6, hands down. The only thing that competes with that right now for me is the SKX 2, the X-Fly 6. I'd be happy with both of those. And then those would probably be like top 3 maybe. You could argue... What else? What else do I have in my... Yeah, none of these, because these are not new. Yeah, those are kind of it, man. So yeah, those would be my picks, I think, for sure. And what else do we have? Durability, 8 out of 10. 0 issues with these so far. It should probably be a 9 out of 10, but I think a lot of people are pussies about the fact that this gets dirty and grip knit gets dirty, and that's not really a durability thing. So I probably should have this as a 9, but I'm going to give it an 8 because I don't think it's perfect. And yeah, you can get some fraying sometimes on the grip knit and stuff, which is kind of annoying, but pretty solid score though, 8 out of 10. And then X Factor, I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. We've gone backwards, so the design and the DNA isn't as special as it used to be, on top of the fact that they use grip knit for the Vapor and the Superfly as well. So that's sort of why X Factor for me isn't as special, even though this is a fabulous football boot. That gives us an overall score of 8 out of 10. So very, very solid. One of the best modern day football boots, in my opinion, on the market. It just does everything sensationally well, and it's going to fit a lot of people. Section 3, market report. So latest colorway drops, we got finally, we've seen leaks forever about these, but the Erling Haaland Phantom 6s, they're going back to the Force 9 logoing and stuff for his new boot, which is yellow, blue, and red. They are absolutely hideous, and I really don't want to talk about them, but they exist now. He wore them in training the other day. They're all over the internet, which they have been for a while. But yeah, those are the latest colorway drops. Honestly, I don't even think they've hit the store yet, so this is more of like a leak release, but they're out. They exist. Everyone knows about them now. The crazy part is we didn't really have any releases this week, which was insane. It's the first time in, I feel like, forever. I'm surprised Puma hasn't had a release. Dumbasses. Okay, and then new in the shop, we also went over, so that's good. We got the ID Customize, which I do actually want to mention really quick. This is a boot that is, you basically choose the shape, the materials, and this is actually kind of hilarious. I don't know if it'll show up on camera, but the torsion frame, they use the torsion frame from Adidas. So this must be the same factory that either made the torsion frame was Nemesis and Copa Pure. Yeah. Copa Pure 1 and 2. So interesting. But we'll get into the actual details of those later. And then Morelia UL Ultralight and Magnetico, which we've talked about before. Some notable boots resurfacing this week. Pickup Boots had a pair of Tiempo Legend 3 Elite World Cup colorway in 2010. These are special for me because this was one of the first elite model football boots that I ever got. I actually wore those World Cup ones, and then I got a pair of these ones, which are the same boot, but obviously a slightly different color. These are absolutely amazing. Some of my favorite boots I've ever owned, and they are horrifically uncomfortable in modern day standards, but they were very special in era, and I think they are still really, really cool. And this Tiempo 3, although I think Tiempo 4 and Tiempo 5 were the peak of Tiempo, those were the best Tiempos we ever got were 4, 5, and 9. The Tiempo 3 to me is probably, this might be a little controversial. I think the Tiempo Legend 3 with this fold over tongue is the most Tiempo design. Like, it's the most design. What am I trying to say? The pinnacle of performance Tiempo was 4, 5, and 9. The pinnacle of design of like what the Tiempo is in your mind is the 3, and the 3 Elite, I guess you could say, but really the 3. Very, very cool football boots. And Pickup Boots has the Tiempo 3 Elite World Cup in those iconic colors. Unique Cleats has Superfly 8 prototypes in a really interesting colorway. These are like a sample pair that are really ugly in my opinion. Actually not too dissimilar from the Erling Haaland Force 9s that I just mentioned, but cool nonetheless. And then TokyoFootball.sg has a couple more pairs of these, ladies and gentlemen. Go get them. Go get them before you never see these again, because it's one of the like, please go to Tokyo Football, because Tokyo Football actually has reasonable prices. No, I'm not sponsored by them. No, I have never been sponsored by them. They occasionally send me boots because they are incredibly gracious and because I try to help them out because I think they're a great shop. The bottom line though is that the Wave Cup is a boot that you should buy, and Tokyo Football is not going to overprice you, but a lot of resellers probably will. So go buy them if you can find them. TokyoFootball.sg. Now, in terms of stock availability and drops, really quick, I just wanted to mention the Morelia Ultralight and also the Morelia 2 in the Origin packs, which is the updated Morelia 2 design with the suede heel liner and some of the internal stuff and no rivets in the bottom of the sole plate, but in the 2 OG colorways. So it's the black with the white and the red with the fold over tongue, which has Velcro now, which is pretty cool. Actually, really, really cool because it saves you all the hassle of it folding up and down and doing what this goddamn boot does. And then the low top in the same colorway as I actually have. You're not going to be able to see these, I don't think, but way down there I have the cross stitch. They're white with the black and the red accent, which is the original white colorway that they had way back in the day. So they went Origins pack for this new update. They've done this colorway 100 different times, and it's always when they do like updates and stuff. So very, very cool. What's interesting about these and why it's in stock availability and drops is this boot didn't sell out overnight, which I was really, really surprised by. I think modern footballers are not looking for this type of boot. They're looking more for innovation pack type boots. And although this is a very special football boot and it is incredible in terms of performance and comfort and all that stuff, I think modern day footballers are going to freak out more about boots like the DNA, and I think they're going to freak out more about boots like the Innovation Pack Beta and Innovation Pack Alphas. That's just my opinion. I could be wrong, but it is unfortunate to see that this ultralight, which is absolutely stunning to look at, but also a really, really interesting and cool direction for the Morelia series. I don't know. They didn't sell out right away. I'm not surprised that the classic Morelia 2 Origin packs didn't sell out, but I wanted to mention those in combination because they all kind of came out at the same time. Section 4, audience questions. So let's go. The first one is Ibel Raffi. How do you come back from a bad performance? This is all about framing. The second question they also asked was, what are some things you can do to help you overcome the bad performance so that next game you're on top form? When you ask the question in the frame of how do you come back from a bad performance, that assumes there is sort of an underlying assumption with that statement or that question that the bad performance is one, a bad performance, and number two, which I know sounds obvious, but it's that you are perceiving it as probably worse than it is. And number two, when you say, how do you come back from a bad performance? That's assuming that that bad performance has now put you in a position where you have to overcome something. Let me try to explain this. When you have a process-focused mindset with football and with anything in life, and you look at something long-term, the ups and downs, are you going to fail? Let me ask you this. This is rhetorical because you're the fucking camera, not actual person, but you get what I'm saying. I'm talking to you through the camera. Are you going to make mistakes? Are you going to have a bad performance moving forward in football? The answer will be yes, because it's inevitable. Failure's going to happen again. So why is it all of a sudden, why are you coming back from it? Isn't it just part of the process? You're going to succeed sometimes, you're going to lose sometimes, and you're going to fail sometimes. Like, to me, when I think about the mindset of this person puts way too much stock into individual performances. Do they matter? Of course they matter. But they matter from whether you're succeeding, amazing, nice work, or you're learning from something that didn't work. That's all it is, because it's all process focused. Because my guess is that you're probably young enough where that one bad performance shouldn't define your career. And if it does, you've got a really shitty mindset, and or you're way too dramatic, because nothing is that important. Honestly, there are very few things that are that important in life. And one bad performance in football is not it. So I would not stress about it. And when you say come back from a bad performance, you just exist. Keep training, keep doing your thing, and wrap your head around the fact that you're going to keep fucking up. And that's okay. And that's actually a really good thing, because you'll learn from that bad performance. Jake, how and what do you do to get yourself mentally ready for games? This will depend on the person. Me personally, I had a pseudo pre-match routine. I had a playlist that I really liked that I'd sort of curated over the course of the season that I kept adding to. So it was never exactly the same every time. I'm not an overly superstitious person, but there are a couple things that I would do. Prior to a game, I had a journaling routine that I went through at the facility before, or in the locker room or whatever it was, if we were in an away game, where I would write on my computer or a piece of paper or an iPad or something, and or on my phone. I actually didn't bring a computer in. It was either an iPad or a piece of paper usually. And so I'd write some, either it was like an affirmation thing, or I had like a very particular set of things that I wrote down, basically to keep me focused on the process, keep me thinking long term, and keep me just enjoying the flow of the game and just playing my heart out and having a smile on my face. So it was like a series of things that I went through. I would tape both of my wrists with some words on either side. I had a reset routine associated with that would really help me get back into the meditative, joyous state of playing football every time I did that reset routine. I would touch the field, walk onto the field with my left foot every time. I mean, these are all like things that you build over the course of a decade of, high level football or more. And so it's like, these were just all random things that helped me, but these aren't mental strategies, but they were routines that kept me in the mindset of like, okay, it's go time. As soon as I know, if I'm walking onto the field with my left foot, touch the field with my hand, like touch my heart, whatever it is, like whatever that thing is, that's like the trigger to my brain knows like we're in game mode now. And so those are some of the things that I did to get myself ready for the game. Dios asks how to stop overthinking in a game. This starts with just existing in the moment and having gratitude. And gratitude's a funny one because there is lots of research to suggest that if you are in a state of gratitude, your brain actually can't be in another physiological state. Your brain can't exist in fear or in hyper awareness or overthinking when it's in gratitude. And the reason why I bring it back to gratitude is because you don't want to, I'm not talking about the woo-woo-y, like, oh, thank you to everything to be whatever, like not that bullshit. I'm saying the feeling of gratefulness that you get and the feeling of gratitude that you get from being able to, number one, be able to play football, because there are people out there who cannot play football because of their body situation or whatever. And you also get to choose to go play football, because you could always quit anytime. Most of you watching this, like I know there are a couple higher level pros that are doing this and are making a lot of money that are watching this right now, who I've talked to about this because this is really interesting. Most of you watching this have a choice. You're not doing this for money, or if you do, it's not enough to make a big difference where you could go out and get a job that's going to pay you more than football. So bottom line is you choose to play football. And so if you choose, that's agency. That's amazing. That's the freedom to choose to go do this thing that you want to do. And if you think about, this is why gratitude's so important. There are people who can't choose to do this thing because they have to do other things or they need to do other things. But you want to play and you choose to play, be grateful for it. It's freaking amazing. So that is how you get to gratitude. And that is my best solution, I think, one of the best solutions for overthinking in games, which really just means you aren't training enough. Okay, let's look at this from the other side of the coin. Overthinking also comes from putting way too much stake on every single moment in a game. The game will ebb and flow, and you see this on like a FOTMob app where you'll see it says like game momentum, and it'll sort of subjectively rate like who has the momentum, and it goes up and down on either side. One side is one team, the other side is the other team. That's kind of how individual performances go. And that's for everybody. Like there are certain performances, and this is why they're the best of the best of the best. But there are certain performances where you go, wow, that was absolutely unbelievable what that person just accomplished in 90 minutes. But for a person who probably doesn't play professional, like uh, I'm going to pronounce this wrong, but Dios Correal, like that for you, dude, I wouldn't worry about it. And don't put too much pressure on yourself. Like overthinking often comes from, number one, you didn't do the work to prepare for the game. And so you're overthinking because you're like, well, I don't really know. Like the stuff that I'm trying to do is unnatural to me because I haven't trained it. Or number two is you're overthinking because you're putting too much pressure on yourself. But you have not, like, what are you playing for? Like if you're coming to me with the conversation of like, hey, I have the perspective that I'm going into a World Cup final right now in my home country, and I'm playing in front of my family, my friends, all that stuff. Let's have that conversation. Overthinking often comes from putting pressure on yourself to the point where your brain can't, it's like it can't think because you're trying to force it to make the right decision. Just enjoy the game. Get into that state of gratitude. Get into that state of just joy. Like enjoy the experience of playing football. Aristoteles, do you think the upcoming Predator will be boot of the year? Dude, I don't know. Is actually having expensive boots affecting mental performance in your opinion? No. Boots have absolutely zero to do with your mental performance, with the only caveat being if your boots don't fit you and they are actively painful, like if they are causing you severe pain on your feet, of course that's going to affect your mental state, but not in a way of like, it's not going to affect your confidence. You're just going to be in pain all the time, which is no fun for anybody. Boots have nothing. Expensive, cheap boots. No. Messi wore F30s for the majority of the beginning of his career because the F50s sucked. So he wore the takedown model, and he's the best player ever to exist on this planet. No. If you think buying expensive football boots is going to make you better, whew, you got another thing coming, buddy. Dylan, if you could give each of the top brands, Adidas, Nike, Puma, and Mizuno, one piece of advice, what would it be? Oh, that's such a good question. Okay. Adidas would be only one piece of advice, though. Oh. My advice to Adidas would be continue producing quality leather options. Doesn't have to be K leather, but the Icon 2, things like that, even the Pure 3, which I'm not a massive fan of, but it is a good football boot. The Icon 2 in particular, and the leather that they're using there is special. It's one of those boots that is really, really special. So that would be my Adidas one. Keep producing quality leather football boots. Nike. Create products that bring you back to the innovative brand you used to be. Puma. Start over. I'm kind of serious. I'm laughing, but I'm kind of serious. And Mizuno. Please don't listen to the noise. Yeah. That's the best question of the day. Andrew, hey Noah, now that you're winding down your focus on boots, will you continue this podcast? If so, what will it look like going forward? So the podcast will exist. It will not be called the Boot Report. So technically speaking, it'll be a totally different format. It'll still be a podcast like this, but it'll then exist on Spotify and Apple as a proper podcast. And I'll start having guests on, and it'll be amazing. I'm really, really excited for it and looking forward to it. But it'll be called something else. It might be called like the Weekly Blueprint or something like that. I'm not sure yet. For the kits this season, Adidas or Nike, who did it better? I'm going to just tell you the 3 kits that I think are the best this year that I've seen. The 4 best kits. And they come from 4 different brands. One has to be the third kit from Arsenal. I actually have it in my closet. I should have worn it for this podcast, but it's the off-white, that one. The off-white with the maroon red That is one of the I mean, yes, I'm an Arsenal fan, but that is an objectively beautiful kit. The next one is the away kit for Wrexham, which I actually think is sick. It's white and blue stripes with the red accents. I just think it looks really classy and really cool. I don't know. I think it looks dope. I mean, the Man City away kit, the black with the silver, is god tier. That is one of the best kits I've seen in a really long time. That's probably the best Prem kit outside of that one and I think it's the away kit. Yep, the away kit for Spurs. I'm looking at all the photos on my phone. They'll be up on screen. But the black kit, I'm a hoe for a black kit. And I love the Spurs away kit, the Man City away kit, the Arsenal away kit, and then the away kit for Wrexham. The Wrexham home kit's actually pretty dope too, but the blue and white is really cool. And it's a really beautiful color blue as well. So, Andrew, nice questions. Okay, Lucas, best Predator of all time. I mean, it's hard to say, man. Accelerator is not the best of all time. I don't know why that came out of my mouth. I'm tired. Honestly, this is going to probably piss a lot of people off. I think there's an argument to be made that the Rotero / David Beckham is the best Predator of all time. It combines performance, modern day technology, lightweight, way lighter than all the other Preds that have ever existed. And it's still got that Predator feel to it, fold over tongue, the whole 9 yards. Like if I were to pick one for a game, and let's assume I had a brand new pair, durability wasn't going to be an issue, the Rotero is what I'm taking. Maybe the 25, but I'd probably pick the Rotero still because it's just that good. So yeah, best Predator of all time. I know that's a crazy take, but man, such a good one. Heber. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name. I don't mean to joke. Like, I'm not trying to joke. I'm actually trying to pronounce your name. Best boots for a wide midfoot and best ways to improve your game and confidence as a player. Okay, best boots for a wide midfoot. Download my free size guide down in the link below. Best ways to improve your game and confidence as a player. Well, best ways to improve your game, you have to train so much. And most players completely underestimate the actual sheer volume it takes to be an average professional player, let alone a really good professional player or a really good player. Like I was a pretty average professional player. Like I was good in my position, but like outside of that, I wasn't, I'm not special by any stretch of the imagination. I have incredibly high belief in my abilities, but I objectively speaking am not like high on the totem pole of professional players in America. And I have done so much, like it would probably scare most people how much work I've done to get where I am. And I come from a relatively solid athletic background, like a pretty solid athletic background. And there are guys out there who trained a little bit more than me. And I probably trained more than most guys that I ever played with just because I had to, because I wasn't as talented as they were. But even the dudes who were super talented played all the time. Like, you have to be obsessed. And I don't say you have to be as in you shouldn't need motivation. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is you getting to your next level, or you going to the professional game, or you going to the college game, in order to do that, you have to train XYZ times. I don't care how you feel emotionally about it. You just have to do the work. And then in terms of confidence as a player, that's a longer conversation. I will probably be covering it in a couple different videos moving forward, but I think that's too long for this pod. Hope you guys enjoyed that video. See you guys in the next one.